This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, with Kreese, Mino, and Mark, bringing you all your Defo news and talk. Welcome to Season 3, the Chaos Era. Now let's start the show.
Welcome everyone to episode 99 of the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. Each week we gather here to bring you all your Defo news and talk. I am your host, Mark, and welcome. We're glad you could join us wherever you are. We hope you're safe. We hope you're healthy. We hope you are able to survive and thrive in the midst of this pandemic. So let's step away from that for a second and join this thing that we all enjoy, which is Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. I'm joined by my good friends and yours. First is Mino Spellgood. Mino, are you awake?
Hey, Mark. I'm hanging in there. I don't know why I'm always so tired right when it's podcast time. I'm going to blame the 3 o'clock crash after work every time. I swear I rest up, I drink coffee, but nothing seems to work.
Yes.
I'm going to blame the whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey does not help.
A little bit.
That does not help.
But
yeah, that does not help. One of the issues with the coffee is there's a diminishing return once you get to a certain point in the... once you get to... Oh, I got to stop reading the chat sometimes. Once you get to the point in the day, the coffee just kind of has diminishing returns. So really maybe 1 or 2 cups a day is all that's going to help you. But so it goes. Well, you also heard my other co-host. His name is Kreese. How you doing, Kreese?
I'm more awake than Mino is, and I'm doing decently well. Been dealing with a lot of drilling at work lately, which has been driving me insane, and I haven't really gotten much done this week, but I'm alive.
Well, I'm glad that you're alive. We're glad all of you are alive. And just some shout outs here before we start the show. In the pre-show, often we get together a few minutes early, and that's when people seem to remember to resub. And so we thank Jake, Hate13, Kreese. Hate13 actually gave us some gift subs, so thank you for that. Shaded Mystic and Princess Lady, and for all the resubs or subs, and thank you, Ragnamuni, for the bits. Thank you all for all of your support. We are going to be doing some things next week for episode 100, many different giveaways, some from community members, some from the work that we have just been able to do. So there's going to be a lot of different things. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show. But before we do, we have a lot to talk about right now. The news of the day is, hey, you got to finish up your late April Chocobo panel missions. And if you need some help with that, you can go to... I got to remember what it's called. DissidiaInfo.com. Yes, DissidiaInfo.com is our friend Macnol, M-A-C-N-O-L, his new website. We have 2 new websites. We have the Troupe.com and we have DissidiaInfo.com. Troupe.com is, of course, our friends, the Tonberry Troupe, where you can find all your infographics. The DissidiaInfo.com is where you can get all the call to arms, but also there's a lot of other things like the Chocobo guides, like actual enemy guides. There's a new enemy guide for the current fight, so lots of info on both of those websites. Go check them out, support them. They're great friends of the show, and they are great parts of community content. So yes, thank you for sharing that in the chat there, but they are so useful. Well worth checking out. So Macnol always does those Chocobo board panels. Very nice if you want to figure out how can I get through, where am I missing? You can jump on there and get that taken care of. We also need to shout out
a couple things to note with the Chocobo panel missions is that today is the first day you can actually finish the late April missions. So get on it.
Yeah, so last week we did a, for Whither the Wind Returns, which was the Act 2, Chapter 8 Chaos, we did a TCC challenge. So we need to start with some shout-outs. The challenge was fairly non-restrictive. We only banned General Leo, Galuf, Lilizette, Vayne, Penelo, and Aranea. The winners of that challenge were Ultima, Prey to RNG, Infamous Element, Laylee, Erolai, Scott, who is Defo GLSO, CSAM, Volt Surg, Strafe, Harith, Dystopia. That's a new one. Dystopia used Zach Yishtola Lulu. Interesting. Congratulations. Primen, Yoshi, Pasta, Horus. Another new face. Selphie, Papillamo, Porum. Lizette, who I just was sharing, has very, very good YouTube splash screen. So, always just like to shout out neat things like that. And Belial, who did it with 5 ingots, the least ingot investment, with Selphie at 0, Lulu at 2, and Zach at 3. So congratulations, all of you, for sharing in the call to arms. So that is the news of the day. That brings us to the 2 events we have to cover tonight. The first is Fran's Lost Chapter. You may know Fran. She's a bunny. She has big ears and other things that people like, and a very interesting costume. So, and you can get that costume if you need to. It's available right now. So make sure you pick that up. It's something else. So Kreese is going to walk us through each of the characters briefly, what they got, what they didn't get, and then we'll talk about them in a little bit. So this brings us to Ashe. Lady Ashe, something. She gets a rework and a realization, or just a realization. So Kreese, take it away.
So, yeah, as Mark mentioned, Ashe, the only thing she got with this banner was an EX Realization. Her base kit is still the same. Her EX weapon's still the same. She already had her 70 Awakenings, so that has not changed. The big things that change with her EX Realization, number 1, she's able to make her buffs last longer, so she does not need to refresh as often. Instead of 6 turns, they're now 9 turns in duration. Number 2, she gets an HP plus finally. She needed it because with a slow charging EX and very limited ability uses, she can burn through them really fast. The HP plus helps her. And that's about it. She does a little bit of HP splash damage now, but it doesn't really change the way her kit works. She's that simple. She still has all the same issues she had before. She takes up 3 buff slots on all the party members. They're generic buffs. Although magic attack and physical attack up are not common buffs, they are still generic. They can be pushed off, they can be cleansed, or they can be dispelled relatively easily depending on the fight. She's a mixed element fighter. She does some non-elemental magic, some holy magic, some thunder magic, but it's all tied across different abilities. She can guarantee a paralyze, but it's on a slow charging EX ability, so it can't be guaranteed. And that's about it. She's a nice support unit, but her kit's kind of lacking, and I think that's pretty much all I have to say about her. She just didn't really get a good enough size up for this current era. Mino, do you have any thoughts on Ashe?
Like many people, I feel like Ashe is a character that's been hyped again and again every time she came around. First on her release, and then on her EX, and then now, of course, I don't think anyone's excited for Ashe. And it's always because she had the exciting gimmick of magic attack, physical attack up. And I think everyone has said, I don't think anyone really likes using Ashe or is a really big fan of Ashe to the point like Inkwelder, who carries her through a lot of content. I think we thought these concepts were good on paper, and it ended up not being great. And the third time around, I think we've learned our lesson of really being excited for this character. Because honestly, well, I mean, like I said with Beatrix, I don't like units that give 3 or more generic buffs across to party members. And then the fact that it's magic attack and physical attack, very few people are going to be able to make use of both. You're either running a party that wants one or the other, but having both and taking up those 2 slots really feels like a waste of space. You know, at what point do I just want regular attack? You're pushing off something important for this, whether it be like Max Brave or Brave regen or an HP regen, and it just feels really, really inefficient. That and, you know, dual element with lightning on her EX, holy on her skill 2. She just feels so weird, and she feels recycled. She borrows a lot of mechanics from other people. For example, Penelo gets the free ability use on turn 1 to set up which stance you want to use. Ashe has the same thing. You kind of get a free use instant. Do you want to start with magic attack or physical attack? It's not good enough, I think. And she has Fran's problem too, I think, of having a ton of hits, but one brave dump. And that doesn't feel good.
Just to clarify, while she gets a free turn as her first action, she does not actually get a free ability use as her first action.
God, that's even worse. No, wait, that's like the other person we covered last week, right? I remember we talked about that last week. There's a character we touched on who gets the Galuf. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, everything feels like an afterthought. These all feel. She feels like she just got a bunch of buffs that other people got slapped on top of her, and they called it a day. She doesn't really feel reinvented. She doesn't really feel necessary, and I just cannot forgive the magic attack and physical attack. I always bitch about.
I'm being clarified by chat. It's a free skill use, not a free turn. So I mixed up the two.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Free skill use, right? That's better. I feel like that's better than the free turn, since you get to pick how you set up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, free ability use. Yep.
Right.
With ingot investment, 2 ingot investment, right? So.
Yeah. But I mean, I always bitch about the mixed kits. I always talk about I don't like mixed elements or mixed damage types. Ashe has.
Well, she's both.
Yeah, exactly. and I'm just not a fan. I mean, I like that her EX now has splash. That's a cool thing, I guess, to give her a little AoE utility. But she just feels like she doesn't really fit anywhere. It's like a puzzle piece with too many pigs.
She need. First of all, I want to shout out to Masaleno. He is Masaleno Games is a fellow content creator and on YouTube and Twitch. So check him out early in the morning for him. So shout out to him and all of you who are here early in the morning or late at night, wherever you are. But her. If they would have reworked her to be a solid damage dealing elemental character, a dual element solid damage dealing with powerful physical attack and magic attack auras, if those were auras, that could have been just a good damage dealer with auras, as opposed to this third kind of utility character who does some damage kind of, but it's mixed. She doesn't imperil, she doesn't enchant. She sets up generic buffs, so she doesn't really work well with other buffers, but you still need a healer on your team if you're using her. She's just in a bad place. And again, we did hype her up. Well, I hyped her up. I was excited about her when she got her 35 originally, her first run. But she's just never really panned out in all of the times I've used her. The paralyze on the EX it's nice, but there are so many characters who offer that kind of EX lock ability, whether it's Exdeath we're going to talk about tonight, Beatrix, Egreus. I mean, there's a lot of characters who have that. Kefka is going to come back here a little bit. And there's going to be other characters who have that kind of, their EX shuts off something for the boss. Setzer obviously has some powers like that. So, but yeah, I mean, if you had to rank all of the EX realizations, she's got to be real low. I just hate to say it. I'm not sure that you can't make anybody work, right? I think at this point, you could probably make most people work, but for this late in Chaos, she feels a lot more on par with a character like Zell or Fang, not in terms of what she does, but in terms of power level overall. So, and realizing she's not a true damage dealer, but she's not a true support. She is a utility character, and I'm not really sure she compares well with the other utility characters we have. Thank you, Lift Rogue, for the subscription. So,
to add on that, Mark, what you said really was a good point. Like Penelo pre-rework, she just piled generic buffs on people. She still kind of does, but a lot of that is loaded into a unique buff now. The framed buffs still give auras to the party. Ashe could have used something like that, I think. But I mean, she's a slot 1 character in the fact that I feel like if you're going to use her at all, you put her in first and then you decide which way you want to go.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah, basically, right? Like you put her in first and she does a little bit of everything, like speed down, max brave down, paralyze, raises a couple stats, and you're kind of like, okay, now I want to double down on that M brave down, or I want to double down on the speed up to the party with Kuja. Or, I don't know. I'm throwing dumb ideas out there, but I say slot 1 because you can't just fit her anywhere. You have to build around her. I'm not a fan of the kid, honestly.
But at that point, again, why? I mean, unless she's a favorite, I get it. And there's always going to be someone who's upset that their favorite character is garbage. But she's nowhere near the power level of anybody else we've seen in the last several months. I mean, it may not be fair to compare her to Zell, but seriously, I mean, does she bring anything? Yeah, it may not be fair to compare her back to that era, but in the last couple months, I mean, she's got to be on the bottom of the last 2 months of characters.
She has some advantages over early EX realization characters, but she does suffer from her base kit not being particularly great and not receiving benefits that help go over that.
No, Masalino, we love Steiner. He's great.
I don't think any of us have Steiner as EX, but we still like her.
SSS
like him,
tier.
sorry.
But yeah, it just, and this has nothing to do with, it just seems kind of like she needed a little bit more. She needed a rework. She needed more with her EX realization. They needed to tweak her a little bit. I mean, there could have been so many things they could have done. Give her Enchant Imperil. Give her, make all of her buffs auras on her on 1 frame buff or 2 frame buffs on her. I mean, she would have been so much better, so much more useful. So again, it's not like you can't use her, but you just have to work so hard.
Provides a huge boost to ally stats. She just does it over like 4 buffs or 3 buffs, sorry, and auras combined. And if those were packed into something smaller, like fewer buffs or frame buffs, it'd be much easier to make her work. Yeah. And again, no ability refreshes, no free ability uses. So she has to rely on a not great HP ++ to keep going for long fights.
Yeah.
And it's not a great HP ++. It's run-of-the-mill 2-hit Brave plus HP with some Brave overflow. That's it.
Well, we can trash on poor Ashe all night, but if she's a favorite, you can make her work. If not, she's one you can pass on for sure. Fran is our next character. She's the main character of this banner. So what did Fran get?
Big things Fran got were a new EX weapon, a 70 Awakening, and an EX Realization. Just quickly, her additional ability basically lets her recover whip kick uses. So she basically has 8 whip kick uses instead of the 5 that you would expect. Her EX ability is a slow recast at Shatterheart. It, just like her base abilities, it also is improved if she targets someone who has max stacks of her unique debuff. Vera's punishment active. Her realization makes it so, the big things that it does is it makes it so that she can apply Vera's punishment at the start of each wave. She starts with her unique buffs. She gets a new unique buff that gives her a little bit of a party max brave aura and an enemy speed down aura. And she just does more damage and gets a better HP ++. She's still the same character. She didn't change at all. The only thing is that now she has an EX, so she has a reusable ability to tie in with that. She provides a little bit more party utility, but the way you're going to play her doesn't really change. You're going to maintain Aerial Archer. You're going to use her EX ability when it's up, but you're going to have to rely on her Brave and HP pluses for most of the time. And I think that's it for the way she works. I mean, she seems like she's a decent ranged attacker debuffer character for me, but I don't have her EX. I wasn't a big fan of her kit when it first arrived. Mino, however, I believe does have Fran's kit and did fully realize her, so I think he has a lot to say about Fran.
Oh yeah, Fran. There was a lot of discussion about Fran in our circle for sure. This is a character I really wanted to like. I went in very optimistic, but I had a lot of because I was debating with Dreamy so much. I ran her in a lot of chaoses to try her out, and I've come to a couple conclusions. So I'll start with the bad first. I feel like her kit is also awkward. I think my very first complaint was that she doesn't seem to specialize in anything too hard either. She seems to get punished and rewarded in single target fights and in AoE fights. In single target fights, all her AoE is split damage. So really, like, split damage isn't the best of AoEs. Anyone who specializes in AoEs either does splash or 100%, at least somewhere in their kit, at least their EX plus. She's 100% split. But in AoE fights, her HP plus is an AoE hit into a single target hit. So her HP plus does scale better in AoE situations. But then in single target, she doesn't have to reapply her buffs as much. She doesn't have to split her damage. She doesn't lose any damage because it's all split AoE, and she has huge overflow. I think 180% on her skill 2 or something. But then her
Yeah,
HP
it is 180% on skill 2.
yeah, then her HP plus suffers. So it's kind of like she's not excelling in one or the other. And I always lean towards the specialized characters for sure. Um, the other thing is her debuffs are good, but they're just good. They don't excel. She excels at one thing, which is nerfing magic attack. She has I believe a total of 30% attack down, 30% magic attack down. So that's minus 60% to magic damage, which is pretty good. Um, but when it comes to the defense down or the max brave down or the everything else, it's not significant, and her damage isn't great either. I went in thinking she'd do really good damage. I think you want to bring her if you value her debuff. But for her damage, I was running her for Exdeath fight, where she is synergy, and Setzer was out damaging her when she had synergy, which made me very sad because Setzer's a very old character. And I also want to say Setzer leans support. I don't know if people are going to disagree with me. He does massive damage, but I would usually bring him for, the support aspect rather than the damage aspect. So I find Fran lacking in a couple of areas. That being said, I went for her because I think her gimmick is fun. I like the stacking debuffs. People have pointed out to me, I know Strafe, our own Strafe, and I talked to my real life friend at Hitmonchan. They said they don't like the stacking debuff because it does still take at least a turn or two to reapply. If the boss cleanses, it's going to take at least 2 turns to get back to full speed, and that's noticeable on some fights. And it's just I don't know what to say. But, I mean, I guess my takeaway here is I like everything's one stacking frame debuff, so she doesn't interfere with other debuffers. That's got to be a plus, right? I found that aspect neat. I also like the fact that anyone who contributes a hit increases the stacks. So if you have fast teammates, they can help her ramp up rather than rely solely on her. She has really, really big overflow and big max brave. So honestly, if you're running her with a battery, you can carry her through a lot of single target fights where she's not doing great. Or even if her damage falls off, she's a great brave dump. You pump her up, she gets overflow on her split, and then she can dump it. So I think her AoE is pretty decent. But I think you only want to go in on Fran if you really like the concept of nerfing magic attack and decent AoE utility, and the occasional ranged imperil. The last thing I'm going to say before I take up too much time is a lot of people talk about her competition in ranged imperil. I believe the only other person is Irvine, and there's a lot of comparisons getting thrown here and there. And I think for my part, and some people, Irvine was preferred for people who said they don't want to think as much. He'd have the 100% uptime on his debuff. If it gets cleansed, he just has to hit one more skill. It goes again. He has the heals. He has the battery. I think the people I talked to said they would, if they were running her for the ranged imperil, they would prefer Irvine for this. Of course, it's a moot point. He's not available anymore. But just, some discussions around her only competition to her niche. Mark, do you have anything?
I will point out that Fran plays nice with other debuffers since she only takes, well, I guess she takes 3 debuff slots, but the big one is her unique debuff slot. So she does decently well with people like Vanille or Exdeath, for example, because she doesn't really care as much about her generic debuffs. They're useful, but they're not the important part of her kit, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, I like Fran's kit actually, and I did not pull for. I didn't pull on this banner, but I like her kit, and I like debuffers in general. My big issue with defo is the debuffers always seem to get pushed to the back. Now, I'm not saying you can't use debuffers. You can. The problem is you don't necessarily need to. There have been not many fights when debuffers have been a necessity. There's been fights where Dispel has really helped. There's been fights that certainly a good number of debuffers. I mean, Sarah was a great debuffer for a long time and still is. That because of the certain debuffs you use, you can make the boss hit like nothing, or you can make the boss defense not an issue. And so they certainly help occasionally, but you can also just have a lot of damage and very powerful damage dealers with very powerful auras and seem to overcome them. So it's always been kind of an optional thing, at least in my mind. And so they're not the first priority for pulls. And in an era where it's probably best to save, and in an era where even if we could pull all of the EXs, we don't have the right number of ingots or books to realize everybody. You have to be a little bit more careful with your resources. So again, unless you really like the debuff kit, and I have tons of debuffers because I really like the idea behind debuffing your opponents. But unless you really like the character or the kit, yeah, again, it's probably an easy skip. I'm not saying she's bad at all, but you have to pair her again with another damage dealer, another healer. She does have plenty of range options, though, so that is nice.
Mark, let me jump in really quick to address chat. Drusane saying, I never liked your kit much, but I'm surprised you're saying she's not working out for you in Synergy. I didn't want to hear that. Well, first, to add to what Mark is saying is the Exdeath fight was the perfect example. The big gimmick there that she was built for was they have this big fat magic counter, right? And the idea is that with her debuffs, the counter would hit you less. But there's just so many other ways around it, right? Like Mark's saying, debuffs always feel optional. It's one way to deal with it, but most people checking the call to arms just throw like edge there to just dodge everything, or they put tanks on there to really absorb, or they just battery or have Porum overheal. There's just so many ways to avoid using debuffs. I think Mark put it perfectly. It's optional. For the Synergy fight, though, what Drusane is saying is, I'm not saying she was bad. She still did really good. It's just that when we get to the fight, these bosses have this insane defense spike when they're at red health. Anyone who's run it has seen it. And I know a lot of people in our circle, we're comparing numbers. I believe many people were hitting like 1,000 or under per hit. I know. So Setzer with red card was hitting with Penelo aura, and that's like what, plus 75% attack or something. I ran Setzer, his red card was hitting 1.3k a hit normally with crits because he has that crit multiplier, about 4k a hit. Fran was hitting on her skill 1 2.5 a hit in crit, and it hurt. But of course, with a big battery, she's able to dump that AoE really well with the overflow. It's just that I would at least... people were saying, oh, you can't compare it to Setzer's damage. He has that crit multiplier. That's fair. But again, I would at least hope that Fran in Synergy was at least comparable to Setzer out of Synergy. But it's a pretty big hit. And I ran her in a couple of other things. In the Phoenix event, well, I'll get to that later, but like her damage wasn't DPS levels. I had to run several times. Like Leo carried her on one occasion. When I ran it with just her, Setzer, and Penelo again, she wasn't carrying her weight in damage. Sadly, like I just don't know what it is. The single Brave dump or what, but she's maxing about 45k, 50k tops outside of Synergy, whereas we know our real DPS like Vayne and Leo and stuff, they can dump far more. Setzer, of course, with his red card has 3 dumps, so he's doing about like 70, 80k. it's just a rough comparison. But sorry, Mark, did you have more thoughts to finish?
No, I think that's accurate assessment, and I think that it's not the greatest banner. In the midst of, we've kind of had a, not terrible, but a couple weeks of not real great banners. Moving into an era where we're going to have a whole bunch of good banners back to back to back to back to back. So if you are trying to save some resources, this might be one to just pass on. But let's look at go ahead, Grace.
I just want to end this with, because we were so negative for 2 characters back to back, I want to point out that we're looking at this from like a high perspective of players who've been playing since the start of Chaos. We have rosters, we have characters that fill niches similar to these characters, and we're looking at them from, do they add anything new? The answer for both Fran and Ashe in just general light terms is no, they do not. Do they have a strong enough niche that makes them worth pulling on specifically for that niche? I think the answer across all 3 of us is no. That does not mean they are bad characters. Ashe has her potential. She can work in certain teams. She's just harder to work with. Fran has her potential. She can do some amazing things in the right situation. But you are not going to feel like you're missing something if you skip her either. And I just want to make that clear. I don't want to make it seem like we're just going to be dumping on all the characters tonight, because we just came off a couple of hype banners in the last couple weeks.
Right, and I forgot to add that I do think Fran is really fun, and like I said, I invested heavily because I like her gimmick. I like the concept. I'm just saying she's not going to be a front runner for me. She's not in my vanguard. I'm not going to try every but when I see a chaos come up that's mostly magic attacks, or not range resistant and maybe some AoE, I'll think about splashing Fran in. But so I do think she's a fun character. I do think her concept is really fun. I hate debuff characters, but I went in for this debuff character because stacking debuff is an awesome concept. So, keep that in mind when we go into the next banner.
Yeah, well, let's look at the podcast polls, and you can always join our Discord and check out the podcast polls, and we thank Quetz for setting that up for us. On this particular banner, 3 were willing to pity, 5 were using gems, 21 tickets, and 21 skipping. So a good number of people willing to invest in this banner. Of those who were getting Fran's weapon, so it looked like more for Ashe, of those getting Fran's weapon, 3 keeping it at EX, 5 realizing it, and 14 3-3ing it. Of Ashe's weapon, 14 keeping it EX because it has already been around, so people already had it. 21 realizing it, and only 3 3-3ing it. So yeah, I think that says about what it needs to say. Well, let's talk about the Chaos fight. Unless you wanted to talk anything about the story for the last chapter, it wasn't too much different from the I think the chapter story and the
there was severe
Exdeath.
lack of Gilgamesh in this last chapter.
There was not a lot of Gilgamesh. Fran being Fran and being pretty cool and doing what she was doing, but not a lot else going on in that particular lost chapter. But there was a chaos fight, and the chaos fight brought us something. Somebody want to walk through what this fight was? It was 2 fights ago. I don't remember at all. What did we fight in this fight? Oh, yeah, we fought the Ankh Beasts. They are Griffin types who were weak to lightning and had those 2 different modes between airborne and grounded. They were weak to ranged when they were, grounded? Or no, when they were in the air, they were weak to
airborne. They were
they're weak to range.
Otherwise, they were not weak to anything.
But yeah, they don't absorb anything. They're not weak to anything. Mino, did you have a chance?
Oh, they do have a weakness to lightning. Sorry.
They are weak to, weak to lightning, but they don't absorb anything, and they don't take anything over. So, they're not resistant to anything. Excuse me. So, Mino, did you do this, and you wanted to walk through anything here in this particular fight?
I don't remember too much about the fight either. I don't remember any super. Oh, right. The only thing I remember is they do gain ranged weakness when they fly.
Yep.
And I believe they had this mechanic, but I didn't deal with it. But they had an instant break even if you dodged. I don't run evasion characters.
Correct. While airborne, they had an instant break ability that they would use pretty liberally. The thing is that it would get through everything, so it would break Galuf, it would break Edge, it would break Zac. The annoying thing with it breaking Zac is that it meant he immediately lost his shield.
Yes.
So I don't think Zac was particularly great for this. You could still use him, but he was not the best tank option. They did have some debuffs they cast. Oh, and they also had a buff aura they gave themselves.
Yes.
Both at the beginning of the fight, and they would refresh it every once in a while.
Which is a great buff to steal with Balthier, who is synergy for this event. Unfortunately, so Balthier is a favorite character of mine, but unfortunately, again, he does pretty decent damage, and he has a really interesting mechanic where he can steal buffs, enemy buffs, but it usually doesn't pay off very well. And this Daunt Plus, which is an aura buff, which would be perfect for him, you would think, really doesn't give much to the party. So it ends up not being as cool as it should be. So I get a little disappointed in that. And so it goes. And so I don't often use Balthier because there's just better characters to use, unfortunately. I can tell you what I used here. I think I used just a pretty standard, easy team. I did the 50 turn win with Aranea, Vayne, and Charlotta. But there were plenty of other options with that. So if you look on Call to Arms, Macnol's Call to Arms, and you can find all the Call to Arms on Reddit by searching Macnol, M-A-C-N-O-L, or just go to decidiainfo.com, and that's his website. But we did have a TCC challenge for this. And
this fight was really, really easy. We banned plus synergy, including synergy, we banned 9 characters, and then Aranea made 10. And we still had, 40 plus submissions?
Yeah, because
this
these
just had a lot of options available.
Because
for what
these,
it was hard to ban everything.
There wasn't a lot of gimmicks. Yeah, there was a chance that they could paralyze you, and they had the instant break. But they were weak to lightning and ranged attacks, and not resistant or absorbing anything. So even banning Aranea, Fran, Ashe, Balthier, Rosa, General Leo, Galuf, Penelo, Eiko, Selphie. I'm going to read the list of people who completed it. Rez, Jane, Jealous, Alphanod, Vayne, Weird, Ultima, Prince, Jane Doe, Echo, Scott, Lift Rogue, Excalibur, Masaleno, Steiner, Edge, and Gao. Slide, of course, got Renault and Irving Rem in there. Horus, Dystopia, who's Clay. Dreamy, Masaleno again. MZ Pro, Amen, Big Al, another Scott Clear. Chris, 5258, another friend and fellow streamer. Harith, Yoshi Pasta, Teleute from the Crystal Chronicles. Of course, our own Laylee, Anthony, Infamous Element, Scarlet Claire, Volt Surge, I already said Dystopia, Meow, Defo, Aodin Phoenix, Volt Surge, Aodin Phoenix, and Preman comes in with the Zac, Charlotta, Lael. Preman and Aodin both did that 3 ingot investment, and then Volt Surge did a Lael, Vanille, Charlotta. So, I thank you, Arrow, for the resub. I didn't think it was the most easy fight we've had, but there was a lot of options. So congratulations to everybody who did that. It was fun. So hopefully you'll feel the same way about this new one, which seems a little bit more challenging. But yeah, anything else about Fran's Lost Chapter? It's still available. The banner's up for a while. So if you are interested and you want to prove us wrong that Ashe is the best character that's ever been played in the game, feel free. We were wrong,
I used
wrong about
Paladin
Lise.
Cecil for this. It was nice to use him again after he was locked out of a couple of Chaos fights.
Yeah.
The story chapter being the big one.
Yes.
So I was excited to be able to use him again because he was my healer for it, and he worked great.
Excellent. Who did you use him with?
I believe it was Paladin, Cecil, Vanille, and Aranea. So I kind of brute forced it with Aranea, but Vanille was great for this. Paladin Cecil provided the little bit of healing I needed. It worked out really well.
Yeah. A lot of people are asking, why did we ban Eiko? We banned Eiko? What's happening?
Yeah, we banned Eiko because she was showing up in a lot of runs, and she was showing up in a lot of runs.
Do we know why?
Where we were not using other meta characters. So, for example, when I was going through the list and trying to decide who to ban, I did the big ones first. I did Galuf, Leo, Penelo, Rosa, And then I realized, wait a second, look at all these runs that are still left with Eiko in them. Everyone was using Eiko and they weren't using Penelo or Rosa for this. I was like, yeah, we got to cut Eiko out because she's apparently doing pretty well on this.
Masalento saying she was there to extend edge party dodge debuff. And she's just overall good, to be honest. I also just wanted to shout out Masalento's giving us a lot of good info in chat. Sorry, Masalento, we don't have enough time to voice all of it, but I do want to say that I am super looking forward to him submitting Steiner clears moving forward for a bit. I said last time he was asking how we rated Steiner. I said Steiner was a very viable character. I think Mark and Kreese weren't that excited about him, but I felt like he was a better Squall.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person who still likes Squall. Everyone I talk to in our Discord says that Squall is one of the worst EX characters, or he's power crept to hell. I still feel like for an old character, 100% AoE on demand is good, and his single target can hit up to 150k his EX. That's better than a lot of new characters like, say, Seymour, who at max conditions hits like 80k. But I'm just saying, and I feel like Steiner's a better version than Squall. So I feel like I'm the only defender here of physical AoE. But yes, Masalento, shout out to him.
I like Steiner and Squall. I don't have a problem with it. Well, my Squall has 3 spheres on him, so I think no one's trashing Squall here. Yeah, there are certainly more powerful characters because he was an early EX, but realization. Yeah, so let's move. Yeah, and we are going to get a Exdeath Chaos clear with Steiner here in a second, so we'll share that. But let's move on from the Fran LC to Exdeath event, Tree for the Void. And that did bring us Gilgamesh's EX Realization and a new character, Exdeath, the villain of Final Fantasy V, also known, if you watch the anime, as Exodus, excuse me. So yeah, the immortal butts, or the immortal bats in the anime, and Exodus. This is in the English sub of the anime, which is terrible. So, but worth watching because it's kind of a trip. Check out the Final Fantasy V sequel anime. So, Kreese, do you want to bring us through what Gilgamesh got?
First, before we talk about Gilgamesh's kit, can we talk about the story cutscenes that came with this event and how amazing they were?
A lot of people in chat agree with you. I skipped everything, so I'll sit this one out.
Basically, Gilgamesh lures the heroes into a trap, and then Gilgamesh saves everyone by breaking the rules of space and time. So Gilgamesh is the best, basically. Even Yuffie agrees with me. I posted the screenshot in chat yesterday. Yuffie believes that Gilgamesh is amazing.
Well, I want to shout out our friend Josepher, fellow content creator. He did his Should You Pull analysis video in Gilgamesh cosplay and then streamed with Gilgamesh cosplay. So there are at least 2 people who like Gilgamesh. I like Gilgamesh, but 2 people who like his kit too in the game. So, Kreese, what did Gilgamesh get? We know you were a big fan of Gilgamesh the first time around when he got his EX, but what did his EX realization bring?
So quickly, as a reminder, the only thing Gilgamesh got with this was an EX realization, but it really fixed a lot of his core issues. He gets an ability recovery when he uses his EX ability, which is on a normal recast, so it's pretty fast, especially for a slow character like him. He deals AoE brave hits with his EX now. It has overflow, which was severely lacking for an EX in the Cosmos era. Having 0 overflow on it made no sense, but now it does. It hits a lot more times. He starts in a much better state when the fight starts. Now he starts with 4 stacks of his unique buff Big Man on the bridge, which means he only has to use Mad Dance once to get to full stacks, which is pretty solid. He also gets splash damage on his EX ability once you fully realize it. Overall, what this does is it basically fills out his kit. He also gets a new buff, by the way, that basically gives him a massive Brave regen buff and also increases his Brave overflow on all abilities. Some of his core issues still remain. I'll point that out immediately. He does not have a lot of Brave hits on his HP plus or his Brave plus or his first skill Deathclaw. It's only 2 Brave hits on Deathclaw and his Brave plus Kotetsu. It's only 1 Brave hit on Genji Blade. The Brave regen that he gets through his new unique buff is nice. It helps fill that out a little bit. So that helps. He still has decent Brave Shave despite the low number of hits because of his gravity hits on Deathclaw and Brave Plus. The fact that he gets ability recharges on his HP splash ability, Wild Dance, is amazing. I've run him in a couple of fights so far. I haven't had a lot of time to play with him since last night, but from what I've been able to discern, once you use his EX ability once and you get him going, it's one ability use, 1 HP plus, and he's back to EX recharge, which means that basically he has infinite ability uses. Another downside, he does rely on generic buffs and a generic attack and max brave buff for his stats. His debuffs are okay, but not great. He has a low chance of applying Paralyze with Deathclaw. He can apply a melee resist down with his Brave Plus, but it's tied to his Brave Plus, and it's a one-turn debuff. He has a small speed down debuff with his HP Plus. It's only 3 turns, which means it can be burned through pretty fast. And if you're dealing with multiple targets, it's hard to keep that up while still burning through abilities at a reasonable rate and doing what you need to do. But overall, it shores up a lot of his issues. I don't think he's going to be dishing out pure damage, irregardless of what team you pair him with. He really wants either more Brave Regen or an Brave buffer to make it so his Brave Regen keeps going. But he's solid. Remember that once he's at full stacks of Big Man on the Big Bridge, he has 100% crit rate, and he deals bonus crit damage, which means he'll be doing a lot of damage. From what I've seen, he's doing about Aranea levels of damage per Brave hit. The downside is he just doesn't deal as many Brave hits as Aranea. So he has his problems, but he's a very solid character overall. He brings a lot to the team. I can gush about him for a long time. One thing that I forgot to mention, I think, is he does have a one-turn delay on his EX ability. Since it's a quickly recharging ability, it's a pretty reliable source, but it only applies to his primary target. It does not apply to all targets, so it's not a reliable, like, full enemy wave delay. So Gilgamesh is solid. He works great. I think he's one of those characters that you can slot into just about any team, and you're like, I need someone who can ignore Brave damage reduction to shave if necessary. I want to bring a couple of small debuffs. I want a chance to deal a couple things. Another thing I forgot to mention is that he does have a small attack down aura on his unique buff once it's at full stacks. And GRW is asking, RNA levels of Brave damage. He does not deal the same HP damage output. No. By far, because he lacks the Brave hits, number one.
Yeah, exactly.
He just does not do enough Brave hits to do it. Another thing is that his EX is only a single HP hit. Yeah. So while what I was seeing was that he was frequently capping or getting close to capping on the Brave damage he was dealing and his max Brave overflow, but he was only dealing like at most 99,999 to the primary target and half that to other targets. So he does a great job. He's no Aranea, but he has advantages that make him useful. So I'll turn it over to Mino, let him talk for a minute while I catch my breath. I like Gilgamesh's kit. It has problems, but it's a solid overall kit. He does a lot of things.
Gilgamesh, I am afraid to really dive into without personal experience because he's just so much going on with his kit, and he has little trait. He's the jack of all trades that actually seems to have an answer to everything and do a little bit of everything decently well. I like the flavor because in the Dissidia games, his whole thing was he had a different weapon for a different situation depending on how you wanted to approach the enemy, how the enemy approached you. And here it seems the same way. Like all of his attacks, even the Brave Plus and HP Plus, turn into different weapons that do different things. You want the melee resist down, you want the speed down, paralyze, whatever. So I'll just talk broad strokes because I feel like this is... I would not be surprised if this is a character that a lot of people skipped on and didn't invest on. Gilgamesh is just that type of character. Browsing social media, a lot of people just said that they couldn't care less about this banner, Exdeath and Gilgamesh. Many people just did not give a fuck. It's an old FF. They're, side enemy characters. Nobody really... I don't think anyone really loves the lore behind these characters. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have a lot of data on these characters, period. I'm hoping there are a lot more people like Kreese out there. Masalento says he invested in this, that we can see crazy things out of. There's a lot of potential to this kit. It just seems like really big brain stuff. For example, his debuffs are very short, meaning probably useless on fast enemies, to be honest, or very hard to set up team combos. One turn melee resist down. If the enemy just takes its turn right after, it's gone. Or if you just have no follow-up, it's hard to take advantage of. But if you can time it just right, you can get a big burst out of it. There's just a lot going on here. His kit reminds me a lot like Sabin, who I shut down pretty hard when we reviewed him a long time ago. Inkwelder, of course, proved me and everyone terribly wrong. Did you know that on Ultima's entire ranking of EX pluses, they put Sabin in the top 10 worst EX pluses, yet Inkwelder's done like 15 chaoses with Sabin?
He's done every chaos since Sabin.
Yeah, it's been fucking ridiculous. So I'm saying Sabin got a really bad rep. Amazing players like Inkwelder showed that is not true. He is nowhere near terrible. And he continues to show me how good AoE delay is, which Gilgamesh has. Like how much AoE delay has made his runs, or how much the Imperil has helped, or how much the ignore defense has helped. He showed me right here. We were talking about Exdeath chaos fight. I was like, hey, my Fran's doing 2.5k a hit. My Setsu's doing 1k a hit. And he's like, well, my Sabin's doing 9999 a hit because he's ignoring defense. So I mean, he's continually showed me how a character with such a specific kit can work. I'm sensing some similarities in Gilgamesh. I'm too afraid to invest in this. I know many people are going to skip, but I am hoping there's some big brain players like Ink out there, like Masalento out there, who can carve a path and probably show everyone how much potential Gilgamesh has. Because as everyone's saying, it's a very decent kit. It's just, I think very few people are willing to take the risk to invest in it and take the time to make it work. So the only broad strokes criticism I'll say is that the short debuff durations are spotty, especially on fast enemies. The paralyzed chance I dislike, because I feel like the devs already know that we don't like chance RNG based paralysis. That's why everyone who can, like Cloud and Agrius, at least have some sort of mechanic to guarantee it a certain amount of times. But with his being pure RNG, I guess you could see it as a bonus. Don't really count on it. When it kicks in, great. Sure, why not? But definitely, I mean, he feels like a gamble of a character. Sometimes the RNG will line up for you, and you'll get a lot of mileage off of that melee Imperil. You'll get a lot of mileage out of that Paralyze or something. But
I'll just chime in and mention what Masalento just recently said. The most important thing about Gilgamesh for him is that he hits like a truck, and that's true. Despite his low number of brave hits, all those brave hits hit hard. As I said, he's basically capping brave hits on each one, but because he's so limited on brave hits, he really does benefit from some sort of int brave boost or battery source just to help him fill out his brave so he's doing enough damage each turn. But he chunks enemy brave like no one's business. He's comparable to Bart's in that regard, because both of them have the brave plus battery drain and the skill battery drain.
Gravity's nice too, honestly. He just has a little bit of everything that you can find a use for in any situation. I look forward. This whole banner, Gilgamesh and Exdeath, compared to the last banner of Fran and Ashe, honestly, Fran and Ashe underwhelm me. I don't like Ashe. Fran, I feel like, will be useful in certain situations, but not universally. So that is a big pass for me, even though, I 3-3'd Fran. But Gilgamesh and Exdeath, I feel like, have a lot of potential. They're not the best characters. They're not meta leaders, but they are damn strong and can work and very interesting. If you like gimmicks, if you like just having fun in this game, I think these two characters are very exciting. Oh, and to address V Foul Play is saying, just weird to me to trust the gacha ranking site in the first place. Is there something prestigious about Ultima compared to Game Press or something? Why are we bringing up Ultima? Ultima is just the only site that keeps trying to have a tier list for DFF. And it's just kind of so well known, it's easy to throw a reference out there. We're not saying they're infallible or their knowledge is perfect. It's just...
We'd actually argue they've been wrong in many occasions.
We have often said they're not.
But it's just, it's just something we can reference at all. Mark, do you have any thoughts on Gilgamesh?
I think you've covered a lot of it. I think he has extremely good potencies, great longevity. The big limiting factor is his number of brave hits. So beyond that, I mean, he's a character I've never had. I have his 35 and his 15 CP, but I've never been able to use him kind of throughout the game to get a good sense of how to use him. But on paper, looking at him and going over the research and the numbers, he looks very usable. He looks like a good secondary damage dealer with a little bit of utility mixed in there, with just some limiting factors being the low number of brave hits. But as Masalono said, that red part of the boss where the defense is spiked, that's his potencies are still doing the good damage. So, he can come and clinch there and help out with his other little things. And a free paralyze every once in a while is not going to hurt either. And the debuffs when they work are not going to hurt either. But I mean, if we were in a time where we had, again, it's this ingot issue, the lack of resources with books and ingots. I think this is the big failing of Chaos era, the lack of resources with books and ingots. I would be much more apt to spend a lot more resources on this banner if I could purple these two characters, because I think both of these characters, Exdeath and Gilgamesh, are interesting. I think they're a little bit more unique than some of the characters we've had. They're not as straightforward damage dealer, as straightforward support, as straightforward utility. They're kind of their own little thing, and so that's interesting. And I like to play with characters, as you've said. Sabin, being able to take him and use him and build teams around him, Ink's done that really well. But if you don't have the resources, you don't have the resources. So it really doesn't give you. And so I'm glad Kreese is got him, and a couple other people have. Josepher, of course, has a 3/3 Gilgamesh. So I don't think they're going to regret it.
I'm one of the few people who pulled on Gilgamesh's Lost Chapter banner for that EX, and I was one of the few people who got his 35 CP on his original event banner.
I'm looking.
I've had his full kit for a long, long time. So I'm
looking at the podcast polls. You're still one of the few people with.
I want to add in. Honestly, just little things about his kit. I feel like you can never count him. He'll be doing something in every fight, no matter what. Just like he's the perfect third slot character, because no matter what, even if his shaving falls off, he has the gravity aspect. If he can't build up that much, he has 200 brave regen. If you pump that up, like I've stretched Cloud thin because of his insane brave regen on his EX, purely just because of the brave regen. Like Gilgamesh has that brave regen so that he can be viable and do good damage constantly, and all his other unique gimmicks. So I feel like perfect third slot character. Just throw him in a third slot. No fight will completely shut him out, I feel like.
Well, let's talk about from the man with all the swords to the paladin Golbez himself, Exdeath. So, Kreese, walk us through Exdeath, his very unique kit. I would say he has one of the more unique kits we've seen in recent months. What does the Terror of the Trees do? He's an evil Groot.
Oh boy, his kit is very different from everything else. He does not brave shave like anyone else, and he does not break enemies for the most part. Big things you need to know about his kit. He deals brave damage based on his attack stat. He gains brave based on his attack stat. And he deals HP damage based on brave gains. So he does not deal brave damage like most characters. His brave damage is most comparable to Penelo's EX Intercession in how he works. Along with that, he works around a debuff stacking mechanic. He has a debuff that he applies with his skill 1, Boat of Darkness, that can stack up to 3 times. It applies a sap effect, but the damage that his second skill, Almagus, does depends on how many stacks he has of Boat of Darkness. So basically, the more, if you can max it out, Almagest will do a lot of Brave damage and deal a lot of HP damage. Other things he does that are unique to him, he deals HP sap damage with a unique debuff called Curse, which he applies with his second ability, Almagest. It deals HP damage based on his attack stat. His EX ability applies Power of the Void, which reduces HP damage for 1 turn after he uses his EX ability, Grand Cross, and reduces Brave at the end of the enemy's turn. So basically, they can't deal HP damage, and they aren't allowed to keep any Brave around. That's his major mechanic. He basically just shuts enemies out of dealing Brave damage, sapping their Brave, sapping their health over time, while also not breaking anyone. Notes that he can only apply Bud of Darkness stacks with his skill 1, his EX, and if you realize him, his Brave++ and his HP++. Skill 2 does not apply Bud of Darkness stacks, so if you want that to hit as hard as possible, you have to build up those stacks first. Beyond that, he has a couple of unique buffs that he gets with his EX Realization and his normal kits that just are the general things. His EX Realization buff does give him some Brave regen that's based on his max Brave instead of int Brave, and some HP regen so he can keep himself healthy. And he does get Party Battery on his EX ability if you realize his kit. Other than that, it's basically just the similar things you'd expect. He starts with his buffs. He applies his debuff, 1 stack of it to all enemies if you realize his weapon. And I think that's the basics of his kit. We can go into more nuances if it's necessary, but I think that's a good starting point. I'm going to let Mino take it now because he actually did build Exdeath. I actually tried to pull on this banner with tickets and I couldn't get his EX, so I had to just accept stepping out after a little while. So Mino, are there any nuances I missed with Exdeath that are worth mentioning, and your thoughts on him so far?
I didn't 3-3 Exdeath. I just realized it. Just so I'll put that disclaimer out there. I always try to bring a balanced view to this podcast. So if Chris and Mark are skewing positive, I skew negative, and vice versa. But it was really hard to decide where to go on this because the community seems insanely split. There are a lot of community members who believe Exdeath is amazing and others who believe he's complete garbage. So I'm not sure how to tackle this one. So I guess I'll try to, as briefly as possible as I can, list the good and bad. I should do bad into good, right, Kreese? Is that the balanced approach?
Do bad into good, yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the bad that a lot of people are skipping on. A lot of people aren't listing the bad things. First of all, his Brave Shave is amazing, but other than his Brave++, he has no capabilities of breaking. That's a big deal to me because there are a lot of fights where manipulating enemy turns with breaks is a big deal. I think that can be seen in a lot. I think a lot of people who are running Exdeath that I've talked to already have kind of seen that, oh man, sometimes with how the AI behavior works, sometimes just not getting any breaks off of him really does affect the tempo of the fight. That's one thing to consider. The only reason you would want to reduce him to 0 to not break is for a very handful of characters benefit from it, such as Lightning coming up, King, Jekt. Everyone brings up Aranea. And this was going to be one of our questions from Black Cloud, but I'll tackle it here. I personally don't feel like Exdeath helps Aranea that much because if she wants a break, she can get it any time from her 7 uses of skill 2. I mean, do you guys agree or disagree with that, Mark? Like, I don't feel like Aranea needs the help to reduce the enemy to 0. Oh, Null coming up could really use it.
Aranea definitely does not benefit. But characters like Lightning, Null, and King definitely benefit from having Exdeath there, not breaking the enemy.
Yeah.
Right. There are a handful of characters that can use it. I think people saying I'm pulling Exdeath to support Aranea, that's not really necessary. It's like people who say they want to run. Yeah, exactly.
There are just better team cops and better. You need, auras and Brave regen. There are things that help Aranea a lot better than someone who just doesn't break anybody.
A couple people are bringing up some things in chat that I want to mention about Exdeath's kit. Because he does not shave Brave the way most people do, he does not benefit from debuffs the way most people do.
Oh yeah,
Idle
I would.
Crusher does not help him.
Yeah.
Defense down debuffs do not help him. The only thing that makes him shave more is attack up buffs.
Yeah, it's not great
Right.
synergy because she's not providing any buffs, he's not providing any buffs, and they both really need those attack auras and those attack buffs to really help.
Yeah. It's like Leo, and people keep saying just pair Leo with Aranea. I mean, of course you can beat content like that.
That you can do. They don't.
No, I mean, see, no, if you Leo and Aranea, yeah, they can beat content together, but their synergy isn't great.
No.
Right? Like the only thing that Aranea is going to get off of Leo's debuff is her skill 1.
Skill 1.
Her EX and her skill 2 and her HP plus are all AoE. So
Yep.
she's not really benefiting from that. Yeah, who gives but I mean, like, they can brute force content, but their synergy isn't great. I feel like that's the same with Exdeath and Aranea. Anyways, so that's what we're talking about when Exdeath can't break. I feel like that's a weakness because if you can take bigger DPS that can break, I would rather have that. Not saying that makes Exdeath the bad character, just something to consider with his unbreakables. It only benefits a very small amount of characters that not everyone has, and it's going to bring me to a later point that Exdeath needs more specific team building than most people. The second thing is his big gimmick of true damage. True damage is no matter what the circumstances, he's going to do a set amount of damage every time, depending on his attack. Brave damage reduction from bosses, defense spikes, nothing's going to stop him. Resistances, nothing. He blows through all of it. But true to any RPG that employs the true damage mechanic, true damage DPS is never top DPS. It's always consistent DPS, but it will never be top DPS. So it's really a complicated situation with Exdeath. A lot of people are saying, I'm going to steal this term, his damage is evergreen. As we get more summon boards, his attack stat only goes up. As we get stronger buffers, his attack stat only goes up. So his damage will steadily increase over time, but he will never compete with the top DPS of whatever time it is.
So hey, just for a second, to give Ashe some love here, Kameheart is saying, I find Ashe pairs very well with, he's saying with Leo. I was going to say with Exdeath because she does give decent attack and magic attack, and that helps him. So
it doesn't.
No, but the magic, it's just base attack, right? Yeah, so.
Yeah. Magic. They don't. Yeah. They don't scale off of magic attack. They only scale off of
that's what I was going to ask. Yeah. Does the magic attack help him? The regular attack helps him. Does the magic attack? Because he doesn't do actual.
His skills are coded as magic skills, though.
Right. I don't know. That's a question. Maybe somebody. Yeah. So Drew Zane is saying yes, magic attacks help him. I can't confirm or deny that. I'm just trying to give.
Can we have somebody check this?
I'm just trying to give Ashe some love. Just trying to find a place for Ashe.
I really don't think it scales with magic attack because his skills specifically say off his attack stat. Magic attack doesn't change the stat value.
But
it just
his
changes.
Skills are magic, so you'd assume that the magic attack bonus would be benefiting or be boosting, and we're getting mixed opinions.
We're getting
it's attack only.
That's going to be.
Some people are saying it's magic attack helps.
That's going to be some research for the Tonberry Troupe.
Yeah, let's put that on the back burner and come back.
Yeah, let's.
We're not getting
into that
decisive thing
for
on
sure.
this.
Now,
somebody test this.
To be fair, you have to have a 3/3 Exdeath and a 3/3 Ashe to even make that a possible reality. So I'm not sure there's a lot of people that can do that. But I really like the idea of Exdeath's kit. I'm tempted to throw some more resources to just see if I could get him and maybe use him. Do you need to use him? Is he, somebody who you have to have on your team? No, I don't really need anybody on my team at this point, right? In the game, I mean, you don't probably need anybody for the next month or so, but he's just so different. He's such a unique character that he's interesting enough. And so I'm going to share the podcast polls here. You can imagine they're not.
Masaleno's pointing out something very interesting with Exdeath that I'd like to point out again. We're talking a lot about Masaleno this episode, but thank you, Masaleno, for joining us. Spheres that increase attack improve his HP poison ability.
Oh,
So keep that in mind, because
interesting.
those scale off of his attack stat. Anything that improves his attack stat makes that better, and that includes spheres. So that's an interesting interaction I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, so as you
Right.
can
Oh, also,
imagine, no, go ahead.
eh,
Mino?
I was gonna say, should you do the polls first and then I continue, or
No,
I mean,
go.
because we're not done talking about Exdeath yet, right?
No, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I think you said go ahead. It cut off a bit on my side, but so the one last negative thing I want to say about him is that so I mean, Mark and Chris already touched on this. There's always going to be better options if you keep pulling in terms of damage, but his kit is just so unique. But here's the other thing about true damage that I think a lot of people are missing on whether he's a fun character or not. I think he is a really fun character. The thing with true damage is, though, because he resists everything, he has very little interaction with the game. If you want to build around Exdeath, all you do is build attack buffing. It's not as interesting, in my opinion, as all the other things that are out there. Like, he won't work with Enchant Imperil. He won't work with increased brave damage done, with crit damage multipliers, hitting weakness. Like, while he does ignore mechanics, he also ignores it in the fact that he has very little interaction with the game itself. He's just like a constant number there. He is literally, I think, filler. Perfect third slot because he'll always be fixed and he'll always do his thing no matter what the hell is going on. But it's kind of just like, I don't want to think about what my third slot will be. And here he is.
Seeing as we've not had a chance to play with him at full potential, and it just launched last night, does he do enough damage right now to have him be a primary damage dealer so that you could pair him with a Aura bot support and a tank or something? Could he fulfill that primary damage dealer role, or is he a secondary damage dealer? I don't know. I'm just asking. Practically, I haven't seen his damage numbers to know one way or the other. I mean, I can look on paper and I know his potencies, but to see how he actually deals damage, I have no idea if he can fill that role or not. I would think he would be able to fill that primary damage dealer role with the correct support around him.
I am not sure. I haven't tested him too much at a synergy, and again, I don't have a 3-3, so I don't feel confident speaking. Right. I think we're gonna have to do a retrospective on this next week. But for AOE, he needs his skills. His skill usages are not that numerous. He will burn out in longer fights. He relies a lot on his HP plus, which is single target. And right now, I mean, it averages pretty strong. Well, he does need ramp up. That's the thing. He needs to build his debuff to 3 stacks before he really gets going. Once he does, his HP plus averages anywhere from 35 to 45k almost every time with a right team. But single target, we've got to compare it to a lot of stuff. We got to see how the next Awakening banner shapes up, because we're getting 3 big DPS coming our way. Like, even with that, he's not going to out DPS someone like Vayne. Again, I like turn manipulation.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not a big fan of unable to break at all. As Amon's has shown us, a lot of the recent fights have really, really fast bosses. Like bosses that take consecutive turns, or it goes like U A U B U A.
Since we're talking about speed of bosses, I'll just mention Gilgamesh is a relatively slow base kit, but that speed down does make a difference that he can apply. And I'll just touch on quickly a couple of thoughts I have about Gilgamesh before I pass it over to Mino, since he's been talking for a bit. Gilgamesh or Exdeath has this advantage where, since he's so content agnostic, he does not really care about difficulty spikes, which means when we hit a difficulty spike, he will still do the same damage he's doing now, or more damage, depending on who you pair him with. Which means he will pop up at times when other characters are being pushed out of the meta. So he's, as Mino said, he's an evergreen character. You can always go back to him and try him out, and he's not going to be penalized for being brought along. In most cases, as long as the bosses aren't completely immune to debuffs, then he won't work. But if the bosses are not immune to all debuffs, then he will probably work in some way, I think, is the big thing that he has the advantage for.
Yeah.
He's never a wrong choice completely.
Yes. Masalento reminded us, he also batteries a shit ton. I think Exdeath is the perfect filler character. He just put him in, and you can't go wrong. And to cap it off, Teleute of Tonberry Troupe put it perfectly. Is he's going to pop up a lot for TCC challenges.
Okay, hey, this just in. The Max 1087 just retested it. Magic attack definitely increases Exdeath's damage. So I'm just trying to find a place for Ashe.
Who else boosts magic attack? We got a couple coming, right?
Do we have characters
Party
coming?
magic attack?
Yeah.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there are some.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay, that's good. That's good data to have. Thank
That
you,
is good.
the Max 1087.
Deuce. Does Deuce do that?
So-
yeah, Deuce does magic
Deuce
attack.
does.
So
She's pretty old
she's,
right now, though.
she's probably better than Ashe, though. So
Wow! Holy shit! You're gonna make us a lot of enemies, but as like I just hammer it through. If you love TCC challenges, and apparently there are people out there who look forward to them every week for some reason, you guys are crazy. But yeah, no, that's what I want to say. Because he's a perfect filler character, I feel like I can recommend him to newer players, because if you ever need, like, if your roster is just not expansive and you don't always have the right answer, Exdeath is never a wrong choice. So I want to say Exdeath, not a meta pick, but a good beginner pick, a great filler character, and true damage is fun.
yeah, so I want to be reminded here what Deuce does. So Deuce is 65% attack, I Brave, M Brave, 30% magic attack up, and she does decent AoE damage. And does she heal? I don't remember if she heals or not.
I don't think so. She doesn't heal.
She does not heal. But she's giving just as good, if not better, buffs to Exdeath than Ashe. So
Wow.
sorry. Yeah. So sorry, Ashe. Yeah. If she healed, she would be 100 times better than that. Yeah. Well. Yeah. If you want to use that paralyze every once in a while, that's something for you as well. Paralyze and don't have to break them and all that kind of stuff. So, hey, there you go. Hey, Broadway, thank you for host, and good to see you too. Check out 40 the Broadway Saiyan, one of our fellow content creators and streamers on Twitch and YouTube. Well, as you can imagine, the podcast polls show a pretty grim story of this banner. Maybe just because there's been a lot of, this is a skippable banner. Maybe it's because, hey, there's a lot of good things coming out. We've just had a couple really good banners, so people don't have any resources. But here's what the story is. One person willing to pity, 24 tickets, 31 skip. Of those who got Exdeath EX, 5 keeping it at EX, 6 realizing it, 10 fully limit breaking it. So I'd say it's a few. Of those with Gilgamesh, 10 keeping it, EX, 2 realizing, and 7 3-3ing. So,
I'm disappointed that so many people are skipping, but I'm hoping for big things from these two characters. I think they're going to be sleeper hits like Gao and Sabin, who saw way more chaoses than anyone gave them credit for.
Oh,
ridiculous amount. They each have, well, I mean, Inkwelder is running Sabin forever, but Gao has like 8+ unique chaoses under his belt, and nobody thought he was going to amount to anything. I feel like Gilgamesh and Exdeath are going to be a similar boat. I feel like there'll be some big brain players out there who carry them really far and show really unique stuff. And, you know, we have our niche character champions like Erolai, Slide, Masalento, who carry these underused, unpopular characters very far. I think someone's going to do amazing things with Gilgamesh and Exdeath.
Well, let's go to the Chaos fight, the level 180 Tree for the Void Chaos. In it, you fight 2 aggressive turtles. We fought them many times. They don't seem to have, at least at this point in Chaos, they don't seem to have a lot of HP, and they seem to be pretty easy to deal with. Yes, they go in their shell, but you might even be able to kill them before they do that. They were pretty low on health when they went into their shells the couple times I've done that. And the main boss are Dwellers. They're Astaroth types. They are immune to blind, poison, and sap. They're a little bit annoying, and here's their thing. They have an attack, which attack actually give. Oh, I think it's the Wild Spear or maybe something else. Piercing Spear. There's one of their attacks that grants them the ability, or maybe they can just do it randomly. Counter Guiding Light. And so it basically allows them to counter if they are broken. So as soon as they are broken, once they have this, it like pops up as a menu. Once they have this ability, they counter if they are broken. And they counter the person that they are broken, regardless of whether they are locked on by a tank or not. They will counter the person who attacked them and do a massive hit with some Brave gain and HP damage, and it can one-shot a character. So it's a very dangerous mechanic. On top of that, they get a Brave reduction generic buff. Now they get your regular invisible buffs at 50 and I think 30% or 80 and 50% health, but they get a buff. I'm going to try to find what it's called here, but it is, I believe it's a Brave reduction buff. Is that correct? It grants them Brave reduction.
They do have a Brave damage resist buff. They also have a Brave regen and HP regen buff on a different ability.
Yeah, and Macnol, and this is from Scott. So Scott O-N-G. So Scott did a nice workup of this boss on Macnol's DecidiaInfo.com. So check that out. Kreese put it in the links. It's really well done. So thank you, Scott, for that. But not the easiest boss to tackle. Obviously, there's some characters like tanks, specifically Warrior of Light, because of his shield is able to help, although he's synergy too, so that helps even more. Galuf and Edge, because of their Galuf's ability to cover and Edge's ability to grant evasion to everybody, but also be evasive, are able to deal with the counters pretty consistently. Characters like Vayne, who can dispel, or Balthier, who can steal, those are really nice as well. So they're not. It's not the easiest fight. Now, I went in, as we were talking about TCC Challenge. I went in with where is it? Ultimecia, Zach, and Rosa. Obviously, Rosa and Ultimecia pair really well together. Zach helps Ultimecia as well, and I brought a Leo friend, but Zach is not able to tank all of those hits because he won't counter, so you have to be really careful when you're playing that, or Ultimecia will get one shot and she will die. But there are some other options. So Kreese, Mino, I know you've both had opportunity to do this. Before I go to the call to arms for this, or I should say the TCC challenges, this is a new one. What did you guys do, and anything you want to say about the fight?
Kreese, I'll go first since you have the freshest perspective. So I love this fight. These are my favorite types of fight where the gimmick, there's so many ways to deal with the gimmick, but it's very challenging. You can't ignore it. You have to tackle it head on. So, but there's so many ways to deal with the break. People are overhealing. People are tanking it. Fat batteries, dodging, or debuffs. There's just so many ways to do it. And it's great because I'm seeing a huge amount of diversity, but it's also just not a pushover fight. I think in our circle, we've had everyone's run a different team. Yeah. And I did. So here's my sad story to show you I am not a big brain player. First, I was dead set on using Fran just because I wanted to see Fran at her best. And then I ran her with Setzer and Selphie at first. Ooh. And it was great fun. But it made me realize a couple things. I came close every time for like record fast clears. I don't know what the average clear count is, but with those three, they were within like low red health on turn 62, 64. And I was like, damn, I'm really making good time. But once the defense up kicked in, Fran and Setzer both always failed to cut it. And Selphie being unable to do any Brave damage at all really bit me in the ass a few times. And this is when I was like, man, this is going to be a problem for Exdeath too. Like there's a lot of bosses who are just going to get huge Brave gains at the end that you really need to do something about. Well, Exdeath can shave it, right? But if you don't break it, even if you reduce them to 0 and they're still going to hit you with a Brave plus HP that can potentially kill. So I was like, God, I really wanted to use Selphie. The EXs were fun and it's great. I don't know if I brought the wrong team with it. Then I replaced Selphie with Penelo, and it was a piece of cake. And sadly, this was just a reminder to me of their characters that I'd like to have fun with Selphie, and their characters that are just objectively insanely strong. And these are the ones we always call super strong, like Penelo, who can just do everything better.
Yeah, a couple things. Harith, there are Vayne clears on the Call to Arms, so you can check out Magnol's Call to Arms. There are Vayne clears. And Harith 29, 29 turns is the lowest turn count yet, and that is Belial's clear. So
What the fuck?
yeah, so you were asking average. The lowest turn count is 29. So he got max score, of course. Masaleno is saying that Emperor's traps do not proc their counter attack. So here's a couple things to mention. If you evade it, it does not. Evade counter, I don't believe, procs the... Here we go. Yeah, characters who can evade and counter are able to break. Shields are obviously good. If you launch, a launch break will not bring the counter. Paralyzed Silence Freeze obviously does not bring the counter attack. Obviously, the traps, as Masalono just said. Summons, if you do summons. Or you can just bring single target characters and make sure you go, because they're very rarely both countering at the same time, so you can kind of choose each one. That was the one issue with bringing Ultimecia, which was fine, but all of her buttons are AoE buttons, and so unless you were in the red part of their health, and you could, if in the red part of her health, you could use her HP plus to not break them. But yeah,
I'll throw Setzer's Freeze Joker as another great counter for the counters. And like I said, there's just so many ways to counter this gimmick. I love these fights because this is when DFFOO is at its best. They give you a roster of 120, and so many of the characters have some workaround around this mechanic. It's such a beautifully designed fight. I'm going to go back with a bunch of different teams to experiment. But also, this is sadly a good showcase that Exdeath is a very fun character, very fun kit, but not a necessary one. Just like debuffs, like the fight designed around him will have many other ways to tackle it. Is a reminder of, it's not like a character is good when their fight is bullshit, like Ultimecia. Right? Like, it's built around the insane amount of free turns she gets. Free consecutive turns.
Mino, sorry to cut you off, but a lot of people want us to mention that launches do not trigger a counterattack either.
I thought
we brought that up. We brought that up.
Okay, just making sure, because a lot of people are still saying
Shugo is saying that Ferris's Whirlpool also doesn't trigger, and her...
Basically, all trap abilities do not trigger a counter. Vanille's Assassination is great for dealing with them for that reason. I was able to keep them broken until the late stages of the fight because of that.
I haven't seen a lot of Ferris clears. I was thinking about bringing Ferris. I'm going to do a Ferris clear later because she can dispel, and that doesn't trigger, so that's interesting. Combos. Yeah, Kreese, what did you do? And Kreese, do you want to introduce what the TCC challenge is this week too?
Sure. So my team that I used as a blind run was Warrior of Light, Gilgamesh, Vanille, with the idea that I wanted to play Gilgamesh. Warrior of Light would help deal with a lot of their counter mechanics. I was hoping with his healing on his EX and the shields reducing the brave damage they gained before doing the counters, and Vanille keeping the debuffs off, or the buffs off of them. So everyone was dealing appropriate damage. Despite that, Vanille and Warrior Light were still not doing a lot of damage at the end of the fight, but Gilgamesh was doing plenty to make up for it. My basic mechanism was get them as low as possible before I used a Friends or my Summon, and try to time Friend when neither of them was countering, so I wouldn't have to deal with working around breaks, and save Summon for when I really needed to break the one that was countering near the end of the fight. So, TCC Challenge, we decided that along with the boosted characters, Exdeath, Gilgamesh, Warrior of Light, and Fran, the other characters that would be banned would be Galuf, Penelo, Edge, Vanille, and Balthier. There were a lot of people that said, why not Zac? And I made the defense that Zac should not be banned, mostly because he just does not shut down this fight hard. He's a solid character for it, but the fact that he cannot protect his allies against the breaks makes him he needs more nuance to that to work. That does not mean he's a bad character for this. He's apparently still very good because he shows up in most of the TCC Challenge videos so far, but he does not make this a face roll fight. So yeah, just to stick it out.
We already have several submissions, so make sure you go on the Call to Arms on the Reddit post, submit your video. I want to lift up Masaleno since he's been on and helpful tonight. He did a Selphie Zach Steiner run and completed it, so congratulations to him. Want to lift up Scott. Scott used my team. I mean, if you're going to copy the best. Ultimisha, Zach, Rosa. But Scott, DFFOOGOSO, who is Scott, he did that wonderful guide on Macnol's website. The one to beat right now in terms of the TCC challenge is Aodin Phoenix with a Yuri 1 limit break, Zach 3-3, Leon no. Leon's not realized. So 4 ingot investment. So if you can beat 4 ingots, you'll be on top. So go work on that. And I don't see an Ashe clear in the regular Call to Arms.
What?
So
what is this hate? What is this hate for Ashe? Holy shit!
I'm just like Lise. I'm just setting it out there. Prove us wrong. Show us how good she is. We really are.
I'll mention that while this fight is definitely harder than the Fran Chaos, it still has a lot of options for what you can do to beat it. And I think the TCC challenge is showing that pretty well. There are a bunch of characters that are popping up that were not in the top meta choices that are still being useful. And remember, I think did we ban Leo? I don't remember anymore.
Leo is banned in the TCC challenge, isn't he? Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yep. Leo's
still up. We did not ban Leo because he's single target. So he doesn't work as great for this.
Yeah, and there's there's a leash clear, so Alphanaud is still repping the leash. The lease. So lease is still viable. We got to give her credit. So I'm always happy to be wrong. Always happy to be wrong. So
we're always
happy to be wrong too. I'm glad people are repping lease even when I cannot.
Rep your favorites. Hey, everybody! Again, use your pull for favorites. We always say use your own judgment. Don't listen to us or anybody else. And at this point in the game, anybody that comes out, you're going to be able to use, and pretty much anybody in the EX era, you've been able to use if you work hard enough. And many great players have shown us that. So, but there are definitively some characters that are better than others. So, and some characters who are kind of in the middle, like these two that we're talking about now. Yeah, Mino.
Let me just bring up officially on record for TCC. You get crease points if you run Lease in any chaos. You get mark points if you run Ashe in any chaos. And you get Mino points if you run Kane in any chaos. We're throwing that out there. 3 of us have a character that we're shitting on that we hope to get proven wrong.
Over this
Kane for me, guys.
Over this next month, if there's a TCC challenge with Ashe, you will get special privilege on this podcast. I'm the host, so I will make special mention of you if you use Ashe in the TCC challenge. So there you go. Hey, if you use Cater without her realization,
without her own
in the TCC challenge. So I'm not talking Aranea, friend Aranea Cater, but yeah, if you if you can do it. Yeah, if you can use Terra with the Spirit Mogul in the TCC challenge. I mean, we like creativity. So make it so. Make it happen. Kreese, do you have some questions for us tonight as we go, of course, on Discord? You can always go on our podcast questions. We like to spend some time answering your questions. So jump on there and we can talk about what you want to talk about. So, Kreese, do you have some questions that we can cover tonight on our show?
Okay, so Maple Story wants to know, for us co-hosts, what's the most significant in-game reward you've missed out on? I missed out on a lot of early event gems, and I skipped out on hundreds upon hundreds of early event tickets because I did not do the co-ops at all. So that was my big loss. I missed a lot of tickets and lesser gems, but a lot of tickets early on because I just wasn't doing co-ops.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Oh,
I went back and I think the only, I mean, from the podcast records, now you can go back and listen and maybe find where I didn't fall in. I think the only immediate limited time reward I missed was the Vanille Lost Chapter fight when it initially came
Yeah.
out. I don't
So
think
you
I
missed
got
some
the
armor tokens.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't get the immediate rewards. Yeah.
I've missed a few
That's about it.
logins actually.
Yeah.
So a
Yes.
couple hundred gems. That's just unavoidable. In the last 2 years, I've had to go on vacation sometimes, and you don't always have internet access.
Yeah.
But I've also missed 6 armor tokens from the vanilla LC, and it haunts me to this day because I have an odd number of armor tokens that are just staring me in the face constantly. Like I always have like a 4 or like a 9, some odd number of armor tokens off, and it's just they never fixed it for me. I've always debated not picking up armor tokens so it'll even out, but I just can't do it.
Well, there was going back months or going back years now. There was an event where we got an odd number of armor tokens. So I think
I'm
at one
still
point,
at an odd number though. I don't know.
yeah, I think at some point I just didn't collect because you used to collect for getting so many points in the co-ops. The co-ops were really, really grindy before we had the shops. You just had to keep co-oping until you got all the rewards. So there were times I did not, because the top rewards were just armor tokens. So there were some times I just didn't grind the co-ops and missed out on some armor tokens. So that's really, I guess, the only thing I've ever missed out on is armor tokens. I still got 925, so I don't know that it's a big deal at this point. So, and I'm
short a bunch
armor.
of. Yeah, the gems aren't a big deal because I buy costumes, so whatever. But those armor tokens, man. And I keep telling myself, what if I skip a few armor tokens to even the number out, and then sometime in the future they have another odd number of armor. I don't know. It's this crazy cycle. Hate this game. So let me even out my armor token count.
Yeah. All right, Kreese. Next question.
Next question is from JD Terraforce. It is one that we've covered in the past, but since we're further into chaos, it might be worth readdressing. Has there been a meta character or hype character that was specifically underwhelming or not lasted as long as you'd hoped? I know you have one off the top of your mind immediately, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I always bring this up. Emperor, I always say that I could have skipped him and not been affected at all. He's an amazing character, don't get me wrong. I know he's strong. He just was not my playstyle. Everyone knows I hate debuffs and I hate enemy phase characters. I don't like... I mean, like, it's good that his trap set off. He does a lot of damage. I'd rather just have immediate control. That's always my playstyle, having immediate control. I hate cutscenes. I don't boot up a game to not play the game. I play a game to play a game. So I like turn manipulation and delays and stuff, stuff that puts control in the player's hand. So Emperor is a very strong character that just did not gel with my playstyle. But since I say him all the time, actually, I don't have another answer. Mark, what's yours?
Yeah, I don't regret any of my purples. Now, I have several purples that aren't meta, like Kieran. I mean, I have purples that I probably shouldn't have purpled because I thought it would just be fun to play with them. Probably my only kind of meta purple that I really didn't use very much was Ace, and he was an early EX. And I did purple him as a real powerful mage. I have a ton of mages at this point in the game. And I just, not that he was underwhelming, I just didn't use him very much. And again, Ultimisha wasn't that far behind him, and Kujo wasn't that far behind him, and I have them at purple too. So I guess that would be my answer, Ace.
For the Chaos era, I'd probably say my answer would be Cloud, as silly as that sounds. I just used him for the first couple of events, and then he fell off the face of the earth as far as I was concerned. I wasn't using him past Leviathan Chaos, I think. He just dropped off my radar completely. Despite how hyped he was, is that he'd hold up pretty well, and he probably did. I just didn't find myself going to him or using him past the first couple Chaos fights.
A handful is good, though. Oh, I just want to say, like, these aren't metas, but the two purples I super regret are Kuja and Balthier, because I used them for their event, and that is it. Yeah. I couldn't even slot them into entropy. We were just talking in our Discord today, like, about how Soul Cage is the worst fight in the game ever, period. Worse than Lena EX, worse than the Hell Month.
Yeah.
I feel Soul Cage is the worst. I purpled Kuja just to do Soul Cage. I regret it to this fucking day. I think I should have just taken the loss and not completed it, then threw 3 ingots at Kuja. Fuck him. But sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Well,
Again, I'm pointing it out specifically because it was a meta or character that was supposed to be very hyped, and Cloud fit that for me. He was a very hyped character. He was supposed to be really amazing, and I just didn't find myself using him much beyond like the first couple of events.
People are saying Vincent, Squall, GRW said Charlotta. She was at that kind of end before Chaos. I used Charlotta in the last Chaos fight, so I mean she's still viable.
I used Charlotta for over a month, I think.
Masaleno, I literally used her this week. Masaleno says Ultimisha was greatly overblown. I think I used also Ultimisha in this last fight, so. I don't know how overblown they are if you can still use them in Chaos.
Again, these are personal opinions we're giving, so this is our own personal opinion.
Yeah, personal opinions of regrets, guys. If Masalento didn't use ulti, he didn't use ulti, yeah.
Exactly. So for each of us, those are going to be different. So yeah, Kreese, what else?
Astral Fire or Umbral Ice, which is better?
I mean, are we talking about as a whole to this game? For Papalymo, this is a broad question.
Personally, if we could cast them, which one would we prefer? I mean, it's gotta be Ice.
Mark, kick us off.
It's gotta be Umbral Ice. I agree with Mark.
I mean, in terms of the game, if I had to spam one, I guess Umbral Ice. In terms of are we including FF14? There are a lot of people who roleplay Ice mages and only cast Ice spells too, so. Ice. Unanimous.
Ice. It's Ice. Okay, next question.
LaFarl wants to know if any of the hosts have found niche uses for any of the neglected artifact passives, like the break boost sort of things. My answer is I have not. I didn't even do much HP manipulation when that was relevant. I just dropped HP passives from characters I did not want taking HP hits. So I never really relied on artifacts for any niche circumstances intentionally.
Same. I mean, if I ever have any niche artifacts, it's because I didn't farm well. Usually, I never even count the artifact. I don't know. I'm not the wrong person to ask.
Of the three of us, I am probably the one who does the most artifact farming. And probably of the three of us have the most characters closest to perfect artifacts, just because I know I do more artifacts than the two of you. But that being said, I don't even do enough artifact grinding to have perfect artifacts and then other artifacts to mess around with. There may have been a few exceptions. We were talking about Leo last week, 2 weeks ago, about using the skill 2 and the attack versus skill 2 and C50 or skill 2 and Max Brave. So that would be an example of one maybe that, that would, if you could play around with them, that might you give some sense. I think Sarah and Aerith are ones because of their cursed artifacts that I've played around with the passes a little bit to see which one I like the most. So I guess
I'll just point out that there are a couple comments coming up in chat about mighty skills, and this question was specifically about niche artifacts. Mighty skill passives are fine, especially as secondary choices. I'm happy with an attack 108 mighty 2-star, especially if they can't get an attack 108 crystal strength 50 passive or an attack 108 max brave 330. I'm really happy to just get a mighty passive on there too. Those are great for just boosting damage a little bit.
To represent really niche side, I know Slide puts HP 1020 on his Laguna to get him through some chaoses. So that is the best example. I'm going to slightly disagree with Kreese. I think Mighties are pretty niche because nobody really aims for them. They just end up with them. But the people who do aim for them, Masalento brought it up and Roba brought it up last week. Remember, Roba said he prefers Mighty on Leo.
Mighty skill
to pump
2.
His one skill.
Yep.
So, I mean, people do that. It is a thing. So, yeah.
Vayne Novus, thank you for the subscription. Make sure you check out.
Masalento's mentioning Mighty Ultima on Kuja. That's definitely another solid
Oh,
option
yeah.
there.
That is a good.
Ultima so much of Kuja's damage.
Vayne Novus is a excellent. He's a member of the Tonberry Troupe. Excellent player, one of the best players I think in the game. Check out his YouTube channel. He's always got really good runs. A very, very good player. I enjoy watching him. I don't really enjoy watching a lot of runs, but I enjoy watching Jin and Strafe and Vayne and some newer people. Liz Lizette, Belial, some other folks on here. Yoshi, I've seen some of his stuff I like. But yeah, I appreciate those skilled folks. So. And all the work they do on the Tonberry Troupe. Are there other questions, Kreese? Good question. Thank you,
We have
everybody.
one silly question and one serious question, so we'll do the one silly question remaining first.
Perfect.
So forget the character pronunciation debate, says Necklord. Is it Exdeath or Exdeath?
You just said the same thing. I know. It's Exdeath.
Is it X and then death, like X dash death? Are those two different words, or is it X death one word?
Basically, yeah. He wants to know. Forget the pronunciation. He wants to know about the enunciation.
Exdeath versus Exdeath.
Like, is it X death as in like former death? Like he used to be dead, now he's alive.
Xterra. That's a whole episode of The Office.
Or is X Death just like a one-word name?
Yeah,
I think it's a one-word name. It's just
German.
Exdeath.
It's German. Yes, Erolai, I'm very sorry. You are a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful player as well. Of course, you are a famed content creator. I always share our love to Arrow and her very unique streams and very unique runs. So. That's why I don't generally call people out, because you always forget somebody. So I apologize. But I call you out in the end of the show. But yeah, going back to the Final Fantasy V anime, it is Exdeath, or excuse me, Exodus, like the book in the Bible. It should be real easy for me. Exodus. That is how they pronounced it in the dub version of that anime. So I always forget what it's called. What is that anime called? Legend of the Crystal?
Something like that. Crystal Rising, Crystal Returns.
Final Fantasy Legend of the Crystal. It's actually a sequel to Final Fantasy V. You can watch it all on YouTube. And if you've never seen it, it is an hour and a half of your life that you will not get back. But hey, you may not have anything else to do for the next month. If you're in a state like mine that's going to be shelter in place, you will not regret. It is a sequel to Final Fantasy V. It is a 1994 anime. It is so out there. I mean, it makes Final Fantasy Unlimited, the anime, look like masterful art. It is so good. Yeah.
I enjoyed Unlimited for what it was.
Oh, I love Unlimited. I own Unlimited. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. But it's crazy. It's crazy pants. But yeah, the Final Fantasy V anime, Legend of the Crystal, it is so out there. All right, what's the serious question?
It's from Anthony, who wants to know, for characters that already have a costume, which second outfit do you wish for? For example, Lightning got her outfit from Lightning Returns. Do you want something like Yuna's wedding gown outfit to appear in game? That sort of thing. Mino, do you have any thoughts on this?
Circle back to me, Mark.
Which costume? Well, you know what the costume that I want, assuming that she will not be her own character. The costume that I want is an Ultimisha costume for the Sorceress Edea, which the only...
Anthony specifically is asking about characters that already have costumes.
Oh, the characters that... So read the question again then, because I missed the question.
So for characters that already have costumes, what are you looking... Which character would you most like to get another costume?
Third costume.
Who has costumes already? Do we have a list?
Yeah, so...
So what character are you most interested in, and what costume would it be?
So Lightning, of course, is going to get a third costume. Yuna could get a third costume. Who could get a third costume? Oh, that's a tough...
I already have an answer if you want me to
go
ahead.
Because
I do. Shantoto's wedding dress, guys. That's canon. That's in Dissidia. Look it up. Google Shantoto's wedding dress. It is actually her most purchased Dissidia costume. That's easy answer. Come on, guys.
Speaking of dresses, yes, Jenkins reminds us that Cloud dress. Hey, I'll go for Aerith or Tifa, their dresses. I think we need a Cloud, Aerith, Tifa triple banner with 3 costumes. Their Dawn costumes there. So Wheelchair Cloud.
That kind of stole my answer
Oh,
by
yeah,
talking about chat because I was going to say Cloud in a dress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the most obvious one, right? Like that should be the most obvious.
Now Picky is making a really good argument for Cup of Noodle Noctis. I also that would be
Cup Noodle Noctis would be amazing.
Cup of
So
Noodle
good.
Cup of Noodle Noctis.
The question
would be
is,
really
do they
good.
pay us for that costume?
Yeah, no, they should every time
Because it's an ad.
Yeah. Shadowbringers Y'shtola. Yeah, all of the Final Fantasy 14 characters could have another costume or a couple costumes. So, yeah, Sailor Barrett. Oh, there's some good ones. Yeah, there's some good ones. So
Sailor Barrett, I would
Yeah,
pay for that.
Sailor
please.
Barrett.
I would.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I pay for all the costumes.
I was going to say buy all of them. Hey, so, well, thank you all. You can always
But guys, the most. Oh, sorry.
No,
Okay,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish
No,
up.
sorry. Go ahead, Mark. I was just gonna say. Guys, we all know all the costumes I named. Shantoto wedding dress is the real one who has a chance. It's already in the source material. Easy trade. Do it, guys. All these other costumes never made it into any other game. But sorry, Mark. I ruined your perfect closing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Hey, thank you, all of you who submitted questions. You can feel free anytime during the week, submit a question. We'd be happy to share it if we have time on the show to do that. We like to interact with you and share what you are thinking about. So we don't have anything on the schedule because we haven't had anything announced. Now, next Monday, the 27th, I believe, is our next scheduled SQEX Community stream. We do not know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, if there is going to be a stream. We have talked to Joshua. They've not given us a definitive answer yet. So regardless, if we get information on Monday, if there is a SQEX Community stream, we'll enjoy that. We'll have a good time about that, talk about that next week on the show. If not, if we just get slides, and there is new content, I believe we are talking about doing a show on Monday night. That is if we get content. If we get a postponement of content, maybe we won't, maybe we will. We'll talk about it. But in Japan, if you haven't been following the Japanese version of the game, they postpone content for the next month and are rerunning banners and events. So that very well may be what our May looks like. I hope not. I hope because the content is already in there and just needs to be translated and ported over, that it's doable, because I certainly like to spend the next month playing this game, especially grinding summon boards. Hell, put 2 summon boards in 1 month, give us some extra things to do. But we obviously want everyone to be safe at SQEX and in the greater community and around the world. So regardless of what happens on Monday, next Thursday is episode 100 of the Crystal Chronicles of this season. Yes, we did a whole nother version with FFRK, but of the Defo Crystal Chronicles, it will be episode 100. It's hard to believe we have been here for 100 weeks sharing all your Defo news and talk. To celebrate that, we are going to be doing 10 giveaways. We have 3 wonderful community members, Cyrus, Minion, and Anthony, who have donated some funds to us. Cyrus specifically has donated ingot packs. He wants to give away 2 ingot packs on stream and then 2 on Discord later. Minion and Anthony have donated funds for us to combine with some of the funds from your subbing and bits and cheers. So we are going to give away, in addition to those 4 ingot packs, we are going to give away 6 $25 gift cards. So that is $150 in either, Apple or Google. And if you don't have Apple Play, Google Play, if that's a regional issue and we can PayPal you money, I'm happy to do that. So about 25 American dollars, however that translates to where you live, which is more than an ingot pack here. They cost less than $20 here in the United States. So we're going to give away 2 of those next week live on stream. So you need to be with us live on stream to be part of those 2 $25 gift cards and the 2 ingot packs. So that's 4 giveaways on stream next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to give away 2 ingot packs on Discord and another $25 gift card on Discord, and we'll have a giveaway channel. All you'll have to do is make a post in the giveaway channel, and then we'll do it randomly on whoever posts in there. We're going to give away one for those who share and like and share episode 100. Every week I put the episodes on Twitter and Facebook, our Twitter and Facebook page. So if you like and share the episode 100, you'll be entered into a separate drawing for a $25 gift card. If you are a Twitch subscriber, so at the end of next week, if you are in the list of Twitch subscribers, whether you've been gifted a sub or not, it doesn't matter if you're Prime, Tier 1, Tier 2, whatever. If you are a Twitch subscriber, that will be another giveaway. And then if you comment on episode 100 YouTube, then that will be another giveaway. So everybody who comments in the YouTube. So, we're just trying to show as much love as we can to the community. We have done some giveaways here at live, but I wanted to make sure that the YouTube audience, the video on demand audience, the podcast audience, I wish there was a better way to, get into the podcast. But so you either join Discord, follow us on, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. So I hope that's exciting. It ends up, it's going to be like almost $250 in giveaways. And so that's so cool. Thank you. That's all possible because of your support and because of the support that you guys show us. And so we're so thankful for that. And Minion and Anthony were giving me a hard time since we said when SQEX sponsored our stream and we gave away keychains, we had to say this stream was sponsored by SQEX. So next week, every 20 minutes, we'll say episode 100 is sponsored by Anthony, Minion, and Cyrus, and all of our Twitch subs and supporters. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm just so grateful we've been able to do this for 100 weeks. I'm so grateful for Mino and Crease. It's just fun to be on here every day with them. So thankful for our entire community. Our mod team, Arolai, who is Lily on YouTube, Inkwelder from the Tonberry Troupe, J.A, Jin Lee, who's also on YouTube, Macnol's Call to Arms, and DecidiaInfo.com. Of course, Tonberry Troupe is TonberryTroupe.com. Quetz, who runs MateriaBot, Shara, who's the Don of Reddit, and Strafe, who's on YouTube. Thanks to Dreamy, who did our intro video. Jin Lee does our backgrounds. Hate13, who did our narration. Thanks to Pierre, our founder. You can go check out that Road to 100 video interview with Pierre on YouTube if you haven't checked it out. The whole Tonberry Troupe, Inkwelder, Dreamy, Teleute, Vayne, Novus. Just appreciate everyone, all of you who are watching right now, all of you who are on Discord, all of you who give us a hard time. We just enjoy this. It's just a fun thing to do. And just one thing to say before we leave in the midst of all this thing, if it's not fun, if the conversation is getting you angry or frustrated, we get passionate about this because we love this game. But this is a game. And so if it's messing you up inside, you need to find a way to distance yourself from it, or re-engage in a way that is fun and enjoyable. We should be having fun in that. Doesn't mean we can't trash on things. Doesn't mean we can't say, well, this character didn't do real good versus this character, or this fight sucks, or this decision was bad. We trash on the things we love sometimes, just like any sports fan would trash on their team when they don't make the good decisions. But at the end of the day, we love this game. It's such a great game, and we thank Square for all the work they do, and Joshua and Glacy. Hope everybody there is safe and working and doing good. So all that being said, you can check out everything you need to know about the Crystal Chronicles at tccpodcast.com. This has been episode 99. Next week is 100. For Mark, Crease, and Mino, have a great week. Good luck on all your pulls. Until next time, hey, goodbye.